How's it going, everybody? This is Sayer here, and today we are going over the Thunderbolts kit. I did a quick breakdown, taking apart the raid portion because this is the next bio raid team. But this team is more than a raid team. This team is going to be good in Crucible. They're going to be good in Alliance War. This team looks very good, and it looks like we actually don't need the full team to even take advantage of a lot of their kit, which is pretty crazy. Now, I also end up taking a look and doing quick napkin math to Ghost and Taskmaster on here, so we can really take a look to see how good these rework stats are. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. The first thing I want to point out is how it says here, this is the first team of the Age of Annihilus Chapter 1, and one of the 3 essential squads you'll need to power up the Chapter 1 legendary character, Quasar. So very important. So if you were thinking of maybe shelving the team and then building them later, I wouldn't do that. Whatever team you're currently working on, put a pause on it, work on this team, because if we need this team to really get those legendary shards for Quasar, this is going to take priority for that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start by taking a look at the kit. I don't want to go through the whole lore aspect. Duelim already did that. That was his exclusive, and I don't want to take that from him. So for Victoria Hand, she's one of the characters that we end up voting for. She is a hero global bio, so dual tag with the tech as well. Support shield, so meaning that we can get some use out of, say, Nick Fury with her if we do want to take apart this team a little bit. She does have the Thunderbolts tag and a speed of 114. She's going to end up going 4th on the team, by the way. So for the basic golden gun, this kind of reminds me of Golden Eye, so that 007. So attack primary target for 300% piercing with those new stats, piercing. Apply 2 bleed, gain +1 charge up to a maximum of 5. Now these charges are very important. We're going to take a look at that. Call a random controller ally to attack the primary target. This is going to end up being Ghost or Taskmaster. This attack gains 150% extra focus. And for the ISO attack, it's going to end up doing the bleeds and the +1 charged. Again, very important. I'm looking at a striker for her because of this. Now, something to note is this doesn't say controller Thunderbolt ally, it just says controller. So if you do any plug and play and making it to where she can call in a different controller, that is definitely going to be a possibility. Now, her turn 1 ability is going to end up being the ultimate, so I do want to go over that one first. So as you see here, I end up doing some highlights. So data breach 5/5. Attack the primary and adjacent targets for 350% piercing, plus apply trauma, heal block, and ability block to that primary and adjacent targets, which is insane, being able to get a trauma, ability block, heal block on turn 1, even though she has that 114. But say we slot in Nick Fury with her, giving her that speed up, that's going to make her get this off much quicker. Gain +1 ability energy to self and all Thunderbolt and Shield allies. Clear all negative effects on Thunderbolt and Shield allies. Clear 2 negative effects on all other allies. So she's giving out ability energy to Thunderbolt characters outside of raids. That is pretty powerful. Heal self and all Thunderbolt and Shield allies for 25% of this character's max health. Heal all other allies for 10% of this character's max health. And this attack gains 150% extra focus, it's unavoidable, and cannot be blocked. Now, inside of raids, this is also going to give that +2 charge up to a maximum of 5. Now, the turn 2 ability is going to be the special Whirling Blades. It's a 3/5, attack primary and adjacent for 550% piercing, and apply 2 vulnerable. So if somebody ends up applying vulnerable and they're a striker, they're going to be able to do a striker shot into that. So apply 2 regeneration to all allies, gain 2 charge up to a maximum of 5. So this ability here as a striker technically gives 3 charge up to a maximum of 5, which is pretty cool. This attack gains 500% extra focus and cannot miss. Now for the passive, Adamantine Spy. So on spawn, she's going to be giving barrier to all Thunderbolt and Shield allies for 30% of this character's max health. So new stats basically puts them at around 10 million health, is safe to say. This is going to give about a 3 million health barrier to the Thunderbolts team, and 30% barrier is pretty much the max barrier you can get unless you have somebody with, say, a fortifier on them, because that kind of boosts the max barrier that you could end up giving them. Gain +2 charge up to maximum of 5. So on spawn, outside of raid, she's going to have 2 charges on her automatically. The first time this character or a Thunderbolt or Shield ally gains stun, clear all stun from self and all Thunderbolt and Shield allies. So AoE stun clear. I'm trying to think as far as characters that can do that. I know like Omega Sentinel, she can get multiple stuns out there. So making it to where she can kind of clear all those stuns is pretty cool. When this character or a Thunderbolt or Shield ally drops below 75, 50, or 25% health, if this character has charged, heal that character for 25% of this character's max health and lose 1 charge. So there's going to be these health thresholds, and it doesn't say the first time, meaning outside of even raids, if they end up getting hit to the 75%, they can heal back up to 100, and they keep bouncing. You knock them down to 50%, they'll go back up to that 75% type of thing. So this yo-yo effect on the entire team, as long as she keeps those charges up, is very cool. But because of those charges, I don't see this team really being on defense, more offense, because there are a lot of characters in game that remove charge, such as Gore, Silver Surfer, stuff like that. So making this where it's more of an offensive tool is pretty cool. Now, if this character has 4 or more Thunderbolt allies, reduce the duration of heal block by 2 on that character as well. So making it to where with the full team, it reduces the heal block and then heals them is very powerful. Now, inside of raids on spawn, she's going to spawn with +5 charge up to a maximum of 5. If this character has 4 or more Thunderbolt allies, generate 4 ability energy for herself and all Thunderbolt allies. So this makes it to where you're able to kind of do those sims in the bio raids. Now, in raids on turn, gain +1 charge up to a maximum of 5. While charged, when an enemy attacks this character or a Thunderbolt ally, generate 1 ability energy for 2 random Thunderbolt allies or self that were not at full ability energy at the start of the current turn. So making it to where they kind of keep the ability energy going, the charges. Yeah, you can kind of see where this is going to end up going with this team. It's pretty crazy. Now, the turn 1 character is going to end up being Songbird. She has that 132 speed, which the moment I saw that, my eyes kind of bugged out like Bugs Bunny of those cartoons. This is insanely fast. She's like the 6th fastest character in the game right now because of this. So she is a hero, global, bio, blaster, and a Thunderbolt. So she's probably going to be like a glass cannon as that blaster trait. However, due to Victoria Hand keep popping her up with the health, that's definitely going to help her survive. So for the basic, Deafening Scream. Attack the primary target for 300% damage, plus clear 2 positive effects. Clear 2 negative effects as on self as well. And the ISO attack does the same thing. So you can kind of think, well, maybe a striker for her. I'm looking at Raider, a 132 character that can pump out those vulnerables early and start getting those striker attacks early. That entices me more than doing these flips. So for the special, Sonic Scream, energy cost 5/5, or the ultimate. Either one of these could end up being the turn 1 ability, so we'll look at the special first. So right off the bat, clear barrier from all enemies, attack the primary and adjacent targets for 400% damage as a blaster with new stats. This is gonna hit very hard. However, this also reduces the speed bar by 20% on that primary and adjacent target. So doing a quick 20% turn meter rewind is insanely powerful. Now, this attack gains an extra 500% extra focus, cannot be blocked or dodged. Now, if we end up looking here, if this character has 2 or more Thunderbolt allies, reduce the duration of defense up by 2 for the primary and adjacent targets. Apply defense down for 2 turns to the primary and adjacent targets. So even if you use a 3-person team, you could still end up doing a defense up reduction and getting defense down out there. So using this on somebody like a Gladiator, if he doesn't end up having the immunity on spawn type of thing, this is insanely powerful, just reducing and then applying defense up. Now in raids, apply defense up for 2 turns, safeguard for 2 turns, and speed up for 2 turns to self and all Thunderbolt allies. So in raids, this is also going to be applying speed up, which is pretty cool. Now for the ultimate, Vicious Aria. Energy cost 5/5, attack all enemies for 350% damage, plus flip all positive effects into negative effects. Apply offense down for 2 turns. And this is to all enemies. Insanely good. This attack gains 500% extra focus that cannot be blocked. Now with the full team, this is also going to be applying trauma for 2 turns to all enemies. So turn 1, flip positive effects to negative effects, offense down, and trauma. And that's everywhere. So this is very powerful. In raids, reduce the speed bar by 50% for all enemies with any positive effects. In raids, enemies have those positive effects. So you're doing a 50% turn meter rewind to everybody, flipping these positive effects to negative effects, offense down, and trauma. Very powerful. Apply immunity to self and all Thunderbolts allies, and it cannot be dodged. Now for the passive, it looks like there isn't a lot baked into everywhere. However, the important thing is on turn, apply +2 trauma or +2 deflect. You don't apply +2 trauma. Apply +2 deflect up to a maximum of 3 to self and all Thunderbolt allies. This is every time she takes a turn, not just on spawn. So this is incredibly powerful because deflect makes it to where you have basically a 50% block chance. And if you end up blocking, you have about a 50% chance to just flat out resist any negative effects that's trying to get applied to you. The reason this is also powerful is if we look down at Hyperion's passive, on spawn, apply Safeguard for 2 turns to self and all Thunderbolt allies, along with defense up for 2 turns. So the moment Victoria Hand takes a turn, you're going to have Safeguard, defense up, and deflect for 2 turns. And every time she takes a turn, that's going to be getting more and more deflects on the entire team. Very, very cool. Now, with the full team, this character and all Thunderbolt allies cannot gain ability block or trauma until this character takes a turn. This feels like a call out more to Illuminati because Black Panther Shuri has that speed up due to Hank Pym. She does the ability block and traumas. So having it to where this kind of stops that interaction, I am curious if this team could take out Illuminati and Cosmic Crucible. That would be pretty crazy. Now in raids, gain a +50% crit damage while she already has a 50% crit chance. Thunderbolt allies gain also a 50% crit chance and crit damage. Thunderbolt allies gain 300% extra focus. So this is why I'm looking at Raider for her, making it to where she kind of has that 100% crit chance for an AoE attack and a primary and adjacent targets to get those vulnerables out there. I think that's going to be pretty cool for Songbird. Now, if we end up looking at Hyperion, he's going to end up going second on the team. He's a Hero, Cosmic, Bio, Protector, Eternal, and Thunderbolt with a 123 speed. I could see a world where we end up taking, say, Ghost and Taskmaster off and throwing the Eternals in to kind of get that super turn meter rewind team. I think that could be pretty interesting. However, due to the older stats, I don't know how viable that is, but I am very intrigued by it. So for his basic Atom Smasher, attack primary target for 310% damage, apply bleed, heal self for 5% of this character's max health, bonus attack the most injured enemy for 250% damage, and the ISO attack does the bleed and the extra heal. So I'm definitely looking at a healer for him, having it to where Songbird gets the vulnerables out there. He does the striker hit where he does a double tap into that target and then a third attack into the most injured enemy while healing for 10% of his max health. I think that's going to be very powerful as far as keeping the sustain going for him, unless you get like heal block or something on him. Now, his special and his ultimate are both turn 1 abilities, and his special is a 3/3, which is a very, very short cooldown. Attack the primary target for 400% damage, apply Disrupt for 2 turns, gain Taunt. So gaining Taunt every 3 turns is pretty crazy. This attack gains 500% extra focus, and it cannot be blocked or dodged. Now, with the full team, this also reduces the duration of Taunt on the primary and adjacent targets by 2. So having it to where Songbird does the special, reduces defense up by 2, gets defense down on them, and then he follows that up by reducing Taunt by 2 as well. This is going to get you through those tanks very quickly. Now in raids, apply 2 counter offense up and 2 counter offense up for 2 turns and immunity for 2 turns to self and all Thunderbolt allies. So again, he spawns in with Safeguard, defense up. When Victoria Hand goes, that gets deflect on the team, and then he gets immunity on the team. That's just insane. Now, granted, that portion is in raids, but think about Cosmic Crucible. If they ever come back with that raid room again, we're going to have to deal with this. I don't know how we're going to end up getting through this. This is insane if they end up going with another Cosmic Crucible raid room. So for the ultimate, it's a 5/5, so it's a turn 1 ability as well, which the AI is going to start with this one as opposed to the special. Attack all enemies for 450% damage. Apply defense up for 2 turns and bleed for 2 turns. Reduce speed bar on the primary by 30%. Again, Songbird has a 20% turn meter reduction on the primary and adjacent. Then his ultimate is going to do a 30% turn meter reduction. Gain 2 counter and safeguard for 2 turns. This attack cannot miss. Now, in raids, if there's 4 or more Thunderbolt allies, steal up to 3 ability energy from every enemy. Not just ultimate, not just special, just all ability energy. It's stealing 3 of that. Gain immunity for 2 turns. Gain +1 counter for self and all Thunderbolt allies. In raids, this cannot be dodged. Now, for the passive, we already went over the on spawn where he does the defense up for 2 turns, safeguard for 2 turns. The defense up is to all allies though, which, again, if we end up doing a 3-piece Thunderbolt with 2-piece Eternals, those Eternals are having defense up. The first time this character drops below 50% health, clear all negative effects, heal self for 40%, and then reduce the duration of taunt by 2. So this part here, I'm very curious why you'd want to reduce taunt when he's healing for 40% and clearing those negative effects. I don't get this portion. I find this very odd. So I definitely want to see how this interaction really plays out. Now, if this has the full team, enemies cannot gain counter, and the first time this character gets attacked, fill speed bar for self and all Thunderbolt allies by 30%. So the first time he gets attacked, he's filling the speed bar for the entire team by 30%. So if you're punching into this team, because say it is in that Cosmic Crucible room where raid rules are active, you don't want to hit them because you're speeding up the entire team. Now, for the stat increases for Ghost, let's go ahead and pull this up. So Ghost is getting a 600% health, 500% damage, 400% armor, 330% focus, 400% resistance. What does that actually mean? Ghost is going to have about 11 million health, putting him around rank 29, which is where Jean Grey is. Damage is number 3, around where Omega Red Phoenix Force is. Armor is number 5 with Null. Focus is 8 with Null. And the resist is number 5 with Scarlet Witch. This is pretty good. Now, the reason I'm not too worried about the health is because I think people kind of forgot how good Ghost is. Ghost passive and kit was insanely powerful. So let's go ahead and pull this back up. So nothing changed on the basic. So let's go ahead and pull the basic up first. Ghost also has a 113 speed stat, so she's going to go last on the team. So the basic, attack the primary target for 300% damage. Again, this is post Ares stat reworks. Reduce the speed bar by 25%. Ghost as a striker is going to be doing a 50% turn meter rewind to that primary target, which is insane. For Ghost special, apply 2 random negative effects to the primary target. Transfer 1 positive effect, excluding taunt, from the primary target to self. I actually forgot about this portion of the kit where she's just stealing that 1 positive effect every time she does a special. Attack the primary target for 320% damage. Apply 2 bleed to the primary target for every 2 Thunderbolt allies up to a maximum of 4 bleed. This is very interesting how they have this worded, and I'm curious if they're going to start doing more abilities like this, because this is actually very cool. And this also gains 2000% extra focus for this attack. Now for the special, this is a 4/4 cooldown, so we're going to be using this first unless we end up getting that ability energy due to, I believe, Victoria Hand. Then we could end up popping the ultimate off first. For the ultimate, so this is a 3/5, so turn 2, like I mentioned, unless Ghost ends up getting that ability energy. So attack all enemies for 350% damage. prolong all negative effects by 1 on each target. I actually forgot about this. This is insanely good with this team. Being able to extend the trauma, the ability blocks, the disrupt. This is very cool. Steal 15% health from all enemies and redistribute to all Thunderbolts and Himtech allies. This bypasses heal block. This attack is unavoidable. It cannot be blocked. This attack also ignores death proof and passives that trigger when a character drops below a certain health. This ends up bypassing, say, Thanos endgame. So doing a 15% steal, where if he's hanging around that 55-60% health threshold, you use this, you end up bypassing that passive where he rains fire down on your entire team. And this also would end up bypassing, say, Dr. Doom when you end up pushing him, and kind of gets the passive going off of that. Now for the passive, on turn, gain evade. Now this is the important part. This part here doesn't really matter as much. It's more for Ghost. On allied Pimtech dodge, heal that ally for 15% of this character's max health. So she's not really going to have this because it's ally, but this. Gain 25% dodge chance and gain 100% counterattack. So having it to where she has 25% dodge, and on turn she's getting that evade, and then she does a counterattack, where she'll be doing that 300% damage and reducing turn meter. So she is a very annoying character. I remember her being on that ward defense, and she just keeps dodging and healing herself. So yeah, this should end up healing herself because I remember that. But let's go ahead and take a look at Taskmaster now. So Taskmaster, 440% health, 380% damage, 330% armor, 360% focus, 400% resist. What does that mean? Taskmaster is going to have a 13.3 million health, which is around where Invisible Woman is. The damage is very important. I had to turn off the passive on here because they did end up removing that 30% damage increase and just baked it into Taskmaster's stats. So Taskmaster is going to end up having 890,000 damage, puts her at number 3 with Omega Red Phoenix Force. Armor, 572k, puts her at number 2 with, I keep saying her, Taskmaster is a guy. The MCU just threw me off there. He has 572k armor, puts him around Professor Xavier. Focus, 155k, puts him around number 4 with Old Man Logan. And resist, 127k, puts him around number 4 with Lilandra. So as far as the stats goes for Taskmaster, Taskmaster was a 120 speed character. So he's going to be going 3rd on the team. So it's going to be Songbird, Hyperion, Taskmaster, Victoria Hand, then Ghost is how the turn meters should end up going with this. So if we end up taking a look, nothing changed with the basic. So the basic does 224% damage, 17% piercing. Really odd. I think they should just go with one or the other. Hopefully the piercing. Transfer 2 positive effects, excluding taunt from the primary to self. I actually forgot about the transferring positive effects on the basic here. For the special, attack the primary target for 350% damage, apply stun. This action gains 300% extra focus. Rebound to 3 additional targets for 300% damage, plus offense down. Counterattacks break this chain, and if there's 4 or more Thunderbolt allies, so they didn't do the 3 or more, they did 4 or more, then it cannot be counterattacked. I'm honestly fine with this, because I actually believe Taskmaster will be the first one we sub out, and we keep Ghost because of the dodges, keep the ultimate for prolonging negative effects. I think Taskmaster is the first one we would end up benching, and maybe keep Taskmaster with the Underworld team if you already had them built up. Now for the ultimate, which, sorry to say this, the special is a 3-5. So this is a turn 2 ability. The turn 1's going to end up being the ultimate right here. So the ultimate, Incendiary Arrow. Attack all enemies for 300% damage. Apply blind and heal block to the primary target and 2 random secondary targets. So that's going to be up to 3 targets with blind. In war, instead apply blind and heal block to all enemies. This is the old. What they ended up doing is they did 300% damage, apply bleed for 2 turns, apply blind and heal block to the primary and 2 additional enemies. And then bonus attack all enemies with bleed for 200% piercing, and it's unavoidable. Now in raids, they did make it to where it does blind and heal block to all enemies instead. I don't know if the blog didn't say this, because I know that people were kind of confused, like, hey, why doesn't Taskmaster give blind to the entire enemy team? Taskmaster actually does. Now, if this character has 3 or more Underworld or 4 or more Thunderbolt allies, gain 500% extra focus for this attack. So with the full team, they're all basically going to be getting that blind, the heal block and everything, so, and the bleed. So it's a very powerful ultimate still. These stats did end up getting updated previously for about 24 hours for Taskmaster, and Taskmaster was wrecking shop with those stat updates, so it's very cool. Now, something I want to note here is for the passive, they end up removing the on-spawn gain offense up for 2 turn. They removed the 10% damage per skill enemy. They removed the 30% damage for mercenary villain and underworld allies, gaining 30% damage. They did end up buffing the mercenary villains and underworld team here, so the underworld team did end up getting that 30% damage increase, so they didn't really get nerfed in that aspect. They did end up losing out on that offense up though for 2 turns, which is pretty sad. So for the updated passive, gain assist now on each mercenary villain or underworld ally turn. The block chance and block amount stay the same. They did end up just baking in Thunderbolt into the passive for the counterattack. So Taskmaster is going to have that 100% counterattack on here. Now I want to scroll right through this, because if we end up looking and say we do end up taking, say, Taskmaster and Ghost off the team, how viable is this team? How much is baked behind the 4 or more Thunderbolts? So let's go ahead and move up to Hyperion first. So enemies cannot gain counter. We lose out on that. The first time this character gets attacked, filling speed bar for Thunderbolt allies, I think we can live with this. With the special, reducing the duration of taunt on the primary target, I think this would end up being situational at best for this one, so I don't think it's like a mandatory thing. So I'm okay-ish with this now that we're kind of used to the non-full team aspect of this. Now, if we end up taking a look at Songbird, we end up losing out on Thunderbolt allies cannot gain ability block and trauma. This, I think, hurts. However, I'm fine with this just being the full team based on how this team actually looks, because they look insane, as you can kind of tell. The ultimate, losing out on the trauma on everybody, you're still flipping everything. You're still getting offense down. I think that's fine. Here you need 2 or more Thunderbolt allies, so that's fine. If we look at Victoria Hand, this is actually a 4 or more. So reducing the duration of heal block, we're still getting the health threshold and the heals on here. So overall, I'm very, very impressed with this team. It looks to be much better than the Immortal X-Men, Mighty Avengers, Starjammers, Vigilante. This kind of even looks better than Liberty, which Liberty started to turn out to be an incredible team, not just in War, but in Crucible and other game modes. So I'm actually very happy with this team, and I could definitely see a lot of uses where we can do plug and play features on this team, use a 3-person team, then slot in some other characters. So I'm hoping that this means they're kind of going back to where we can have more flexibility in the teams itself, and also the fact that we need this team to really start getting those Quasar shards, and it's going to be 2 more teams. I'm hoping those 2 other teams are at this level, because this is very cool. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you excited for this? Are you going to end up passing on them, or just kind of build them at your own leisure? I'm really curious what you guys think about this. If you did enjoy this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.